Inspirations, living your best life imaginable. I'm your host, Ivy, and it is so uplifting and fulfilling to me to find those in this world who inspire others through their teachings, their aspirations to reach their goals, and the gifts they have to offer to our world to make it a better one. As a young mom of 3, I always dreamt of reaching all of the goals I have set out for myself, and I have personally become my own best version. I began as a swim and fit model, which led to becoming a writer and editorialist for a fashion magazine, and then added spin instructor and vegan baking company owner to the list, while also remaining a stenographer and CEO of my own small company. Most recently, I have added real estate agent in training to the list. I truly believe that anyone who believes in themselves and is inspired by others can attain any goal they set out to achieve. Come join me as I talk with others who inspire all of us to be our own best personal versions. Why live any life that we don't feel inspired by? Let's find out how to live our best one at Ivy's Inspirations. Good morning and welcome back to Ivy's Inspirations. Today is going to be a really authentic and amazing show because we're going to talk on a very, very important subject, which is being truly authentic to ourselves. We've had a series on how to live our best life and how to really feel our best and look our best and be our best. But that doesn't just happen naturally. There are many, many people who struggle with the ability to wake up every day and really be true to themselves and their own happiness, their own peace, their own best life. So I was guilty of that for a really, really long time. I feel like I was authentically trying to live my best life because I was raised in such a way where my grandmother loved me so just authentically and so lovingly, and she taught me to always respect myself and to love myself. And my father instilled values in me regarding health. And he told me from a very young girl, always eat your best. Don't put unhealthy things into your body. Don't have vices. Don't ever smoke. It's bad for your skin. Don't ever drink. You'll age faster. And he taught me, as a physician that he was, the importance and the intrinsic value of taking the best care of yourself. So he ate macrobiotically. He taught me and taught me the importance of plant-based foods. To this day, I started doing just a simple like chlorophyll in my water, and I use that every day just to sort of cleanse my body. But what do you do for your mind and your soul? The body is sort of easy. It's easier to look good, I think, than it is just to feel good. So it's very, very important to take all of the teachings that we have in our life from those that we can learn from. And we can be our best authentic selves, mind, body, and soul. So I've been working on that the last, I would say, 6 months, more than I have in my entire life. And I really see and feel the value of doing something like that. It's work. It's like, a constant effort to really say to yourself every single day, I want to be nothing less than my very best self. I want to look my best. I want to feel my best. Because really, what do we have but our own inward self-respect, our self-love, our own gratification that we are, showing ourselves who we can actually be. Not just being, but actually evolving every day and being our very, very best. Once you get there, it is literally the best feeling in the world. And what you'll find is that you will attract different energies towards you. You will attract better people towards you, better job positions, better friends, better everything, better authentic things that really feed your spirit and your soul. Because if you're just really going through life and you're just getting by and you're sort of settling for what you don't deserve, and you're a good person and you are an honest person and you're authentically good to others, but you're not receiving that, sometimes we have ways that we sort of mask what is not valuable in our lives. People do that through addictions, which we're going to touch on a little bit today. I didn't know this, but there are 200 or so that people can actually have in life, which is sort of frightening to me. But people tend to mask pain, they mask anxiety, they mask fear, they mask relationships that are less than, because they don't want to really, take it on and either move away from it or, find a way to better themselves, so much so that they want nothing to do with it. And then when they are able to move away from it and heal, that is when intrinsically they become their best being. And that's where I've become my best self, is I've moved away from anything that is negative to my soul, that is less than fulfilling in any way. And that is how I have become my personal best. And that is why I am here to share my story, my show, with others who really want to achieve their personal best. It's such a beautiful place to be. It's so really vital to our soul to be true to who we truly are, not what others want us to be or expect us to be or accept us to be, but to really be able to look inward and say, I will accept nothing less than what my core values are. Mine are, for instance, honesty. I would never share my life with somebody who was dishonest. I've done that, and without having an Amber Heard moment, I would, I would be very authentic to say that when you are someone like myself and you are very passionate and loving, and you try, when you love anyone, whether it's your children or on a personal level, someone more intimately in your life, or even in a job position, but when you love and you give love and passion and authenticity to something, if you are not receiving something that is a positive force in return, and you're not receiving something that is the same approach toward you, something that is negative or something that is ugly or something that is just not a good thing, and you feel that, you may try to sort of fix it by being more of yourself and giving more honesty and more love or more of you. But what you're not realizing is that no matter what you do, if the other side is not warranted of receiving it or being that in return, then you're wasting your time. So time is so valuable. It is so precious, and it is not to be wasted. So what you realize is invest that time and energy into yourself, into your body, into your soul, into your heart. And so that is how you will then become your best to attract something that is deserving of you. I did that recently. I started with the practice of yoga. I spoke about this last week. I was healing from something that I had moved away from. I was in Hawaii and I was looking out over the water. I had just lost my sister a few months ago. And I was thinking about how valuable life is and how the ocean moves. It has this movement and this current that is constant. And I thought to myself, there is so much in motion in the world. There is so much movement that we can, achieve. We are not stagnant in our life. If our life is not serving us, if it is not appreciative of who we are and what we have to give and offer, why stay there? We are so beautiful in our own right as human beings. And if we know we are good people and believe in ourselves, why would we ever settle? So as I looked out onto the ocean, I had this epiphany that I deserved a lot more than I had at that point in my life. And I said to myself, and I said to my sister spiritually in my own way, because I do believe that those become guardian angels whom we have lost before, and they do watch over us. And I knew that what she wanted from me was to be my best self. So I looked up and I said to myself, yes, I deserve better than this. And as I looked out on the ocean, I said, I'll never stay where I am again. I'll never stay stagnant and settle. I then made a life decision that day. It was the best decision I've made. And I moved away from something that was very toxic to my soul. Since then, I have bettered myself through many, many things, becoming fully plant-based, becoming just a more focused mother, a more focused person overall on my body, in my profession, seeking out my goals. I'm becoming yoga certified to be an instructor, taking everything that I do in my life more seriously and just doing it better with more passion, with more inspiration. And I just feel great. I just can't really describe it. It's been about 6.5 months of being at my ultimate empowered, woman that I am. And I just want to share that feeling with others because it's such an incredible feeling to have, one that I haven't experienced in many, many years. And I think that it's something that if others did learn how to achieve it, they would welcome this feeling as well. So, having said that, I just wanted to share my own inspiration of of being someone who believes in the power of love, in the power of honesty, in the power of being our best human being possible. But don't ever forget the importance of receiving that in return. Don't ever settle for less. But first, you have to work on yourself and make sure that you are at a place where you are at your optimum of health, mind, body, and soul, so that you know not to accept anything less, and you never would. So, again, I hope you join me on this journey in learning how. Today, we have someone who I believe in very, very much. She is somebody who teaches yoga, but she teaches more than that. She teaches empowerment to those who have sought to look at vices in the form of addictions, masking their pain or masking their feelings of their lives being inadequate in some way, probably by having, I guess, alcohol use or drug use or things that people become addicted to. And when I first read about her, I couldn't relate to the addictions of poor health, because when I see someone smoking in a restaurant and I'm eating a beautiful meal, the first thing I think is, how could they do that to their skin, their lungs, their body? Like, we only have one body, one chance of good health. Why would they ruin it with cigarettes? Or I see girls or men, if I'm out at a restaurant or somewhere, and they're drinking so many drinks that they're intoxicated. I'm thinking, gosh, why would they do that to their organs, their liver, their body, their whole being? It's just something that I can't understand, being toxic to ourselves, and drugs and so forth. And I can't say that I've ever had vices or addictions, but I have, I think, had some addictions to people that were unhealthy. So I relate in that way. And things that were not self-serving, I would accept. So that is somewhat of an addiction, to stay with something and use that to mask what you really deserve and who you really are. So that I am guilty in some ways of settling for less, and that is sort of a form of addiction. So I want to go ahead and introduce you to our amazing guest. Her name is Jackie Tarleton. She is the founder of an amazing company, and she teaches people about empowerment, and men and women. She specializes mostly in women, but she is an amazing human being, an amazing instructor, an amazing coach, and she believes in the practice of yoga, as I do. So I want to go ahead and have her on now as a guest. So Jackie, I want to welcome you to the show. How are you today?
Very good, Ivy. Thank you so much for having me. Your introduction was beautiful. I love your set. I wish I could be there in person with you. And hearing your introduction about you and your multi-passion, I could relate to that so much because, like you, I've got so many different interests, and I absolutely love that. And I do want to express my sincere condolences about the passing of your sister. I can't imagine the hardship, but I also think it's beautiful that you're able to connect to her in the spiritual realm. It's beautiful practice.
I'm so glad. That's why I think it's so wonderful to have you on. There is nothing more important than self empowerment. And the feeling that you are not empowered as a woman, I think, or as a man, is so detrimental, because that is when I find that I have settled for less in my life, when I didn't feel empowered. And if somebody, let's say, says to you, something negative, if you're empowered, you don't accept that, or somebody treats you with disrespect or dishonesty, let's say, or something like that. Now that I have something the opposite in my life, where I am not only treating myself with this respect and this self-love, but I've attracted that to me. And when, let's say, someone in my life that I spend a lot of time with treats me with that as well, I say, this feels right. This is what I deserve. Because we all deserve self respect and respect from others, and to have somebody that empowers us to be our best. So, a question that I have for you is, I know that when I spoke to you about your interview before you came on the show, you mentioned that there are several addictions that people can have, and that through this practice of yoga instruction, you help people to see that instead of masking their addictions, they can break the cycle through the power of yoga. How exactly do you do that, and why do you think that people have addictions, and how can they heal from them?
Oh, this is such a loaded question, and there's so much to talk about here. And I honestly didn't realize how many addictions there were until I did my yoga and 12 steps recovery work. And in that is when I found out there's over 200 addictions. So it's not just drugs and alcohol, it can be shopping, pornography, sex and love addicts. There's so many different addictions that we deal with. And one of the things that they talked about in the yoga and recovery is our issues lie in our tissues. And when you're doing yoga or when you're doing any kind of movement, it can bring up so many different emotions. And when you're working with someone that has severe anxiety or is working through different addictions, then it's really powerful to do very slow and controlled movements. So when I'm doing my own personal yoga practice, I love doing a vinyasa style. I like it being very aggressive, very strong, very powerful. But when I'm working with clients who are dealing with different emotional baggage, then we really do need to slow down and breathe and work through those movements, because literally our emotions were all energy. Just the way you're communicating with your sister, you're communicating with her spiritually, energetically. And that's exactly what we're doing when we're doing yoga or any kind of physical movement for that matter.
So I agree with all of that. I started the practice of yoga at Equinox about after I had this epiphany and I made this change in my life in Hawaii. And I knew that no matter how difficult it would be, I would do my best to move forward. So I had some healing to do, even though I knew it was the right decision. So I thought, what better thing to do than yoga? And I kind of used to laugh at yoga. Like I thought, oh, it's just, a bunch of girls in a gym and, wearing yoga pants. Like I didn't realize the depth of what it can do to your mind, your body, and your soul. So the first class, the room was sort of dim lit, and I didn't really notice anybody around me. I was so focused on what I was doing. And I started to hear the power of like breath and deep breathing. And I'd always been a fit girl. I never suffered with weight issues or things like that. So I wasn't really there for my body per se. I really wanted to understand how to better, relax and how to be more centered. So I would say about 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the class, when I was doing this deep breathing and the stretching and moving my body in these very eccentric ways, very long poses. I did a yin yoga class. I did a vinyasa. I started to immediately feel centered. This confidence came over me. I started to feel almost like, I want to say, as a woman, like a sexiness, just like, wow, this is how a woman's body is supposed to move. This is just so healing. And I started to just feel amazing. Like, I need to do this every day. And I've talked about this in my show before, but it intrinsically brought this centering to my being, so much so that after class, I extreme wonderful things that were life-changing happened to me. And I've talked about them before, but I just believe in the power of self-empowerment. And it really starts, yoga is just a great base. It starts with the understanding that we are mind, body, and soul. Not to say that spinning isn't great and all these other movements. I used to teach spinning. It's a great form of looking great and feeling great and releasing endorphins. But how would you say that yoga becomes this mind, body, soul that is different than other forms that people are doing of exercise?
This is a really, really big topic, and it's so, so true. And I was like you also when I got into yoga, where I wanted to, like, I was always go, 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 and I thought yoga is boring, it's too slow. But once I started doing yoga and I learned more about it, because yoga is so much more than the asana practice. Everyone, or most everyone who does yoga, they just know about the asana, which is the actual movement, the exercise. But yoga is so much more than that. It's the breath work. There's so much information, like so much philosophy. The yoga philosophy never ceases to amaze me. I'm still learning about all the different yoga philosophy, and then also the tools and the spirituality of yoga. And that is where it's so powerful. So when I did my yoga teacher training, I was actually in my like second year of sobriety. I'm recovering alcoholic. I've been sober. I just celebrated 10 years, which is really freaking amazing. I honestly can't
Congratulations.
believe it. Thank you so much, Ivy. And it's really powerful. But when I did my yoga teacher training, it took my recovery to another level because it was like therapy on a mat. When you're on the mat, all that matters is the movement that you're doing. And you'll have so many different emotions come up. And some days your practice, like your exercise, will be spot on. You'll be super, super strong. And then the next day, you won't even be able to hold a pose. But it's because like most of everything that's going on is right here in between our ears. It's going on in our mind. And if we can quiet our mind, then so many beautiful things can happen. And it's just such a beautiful process.
I could not
Extremely.
agree more. I could not agree more. That is exactly what I was feeling last week. I was in, I usually do two back to back because I'm going to become yoga certified. I want as much practice as I can get. And I was on the mat. It was a vinyasa class first. So there's a lot of movement. You know, you're sweating, you're kind of more flexible than you normally would be. Then I did a yin yoga, which is the stretching yoga, the bedroom yoga, as they like to call it. And I was so surprised how far I could stretch now and how I could bend my back in ways that I couldn't before. I was, flat in positions where before I was not even able to go halfway down in a pose. I was completely on the floor, bending forward. I was, just doing things that I didn't even know my body could do. And it happened very naturally. But part of that physical process was me releasing all of the obstructions that I had mentally, emotionally. I feel so freed and my energy is so different. Like I'm just so much more able to relax and just be and let myself just go. And I think that that is why my body has become more flexible because my mind and my internal being is such. I think it's so intertwined, like you were speaking on. There is not a doubt, and that is why one leads to the other. So if you're not that flexible, anyone that's watching and you are afraid you can't do yoga, once your state of mind is such, as I'm sure Jackie agrees with, where you're enabling yourself to free your mind, take deep breaths, let everything go. Yoga is about, and this is the thing that I love about it, and Jackie, maybe you can explain this to us as well. They, yoga is about living in your present moment. In other words, you are not worried about yesterday. I have many regrets for wasting time, let's say, wasting parts of my beautiful life. I'm still relatively, young. I'm at an age that I love the most so far, believe it or not. But I regret wasting a day, wasting an hour. And so yoga teaches you to live in your present moment. Make this moment the best moment possible. Don't worry about yesterday and don't think about tomorrow because there's nothing you can do about either one. You can't change yesterday, fortunately or unfortunately, nor can you really change the course of tomorrow. You can only do your best. You can only be your best coming into it. So, Jackie, maybe you can explain why do they say that yoga is about that breath and that moment of being present, this moment, feeling your breath, feeling this moment. What is that all about?
So remember our breath, our prana, that's our life energy, that's our life force, and we need that breath. So we need to really focus on our breath, not only in our yoga practice, because it's going to oxygenate our muscles, our body, like it's going to give us that energy that we need. And it's often said in yoga practices that you do really want to focus and be in the present, be in the now. But all the time while you're doing your yoga, you're learning tools that you can take off the mat. So when you're going into life and life is getting lifey, like last night, my husband came home and he was like giving it to me. So he's a pilot, not giving it to me like you guys might be thinking. He was like yelling because he thought that we had not spoken yet during the day because he was flying. He was in Costa Rica. He landed. He got home late last night. And instead, this is where my yoga practice and my recovery work has really come into practice or come into like fruition, and it's beautiful. Instead of me lashing back at him and saying, "We spoke," and like going off, I literally left and I reiterated our conversation that we had had during in the morning. And because I wasn't reactive to him and I was smiling and kind of laughing at the situation, as I was saying everything, my husband got this huge smile on his face. And the whole trajectory of our evening completely changed. But I really do. And I noticed it even in the moment that I was reacting in a healthier way versus like a lashing out way. And believe me, there have been many times when I have reverted to old behaviors and I still lash out because it's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. But it was beautiful to see that in action, and all that time on the mat had paid off, and all that time spent in recovery, bettering myself, had also paid off. And he apologized, and we had an amazing evening, and we've had a great morning. So it all works, and it's beautiful, but it's because we learn, just like you said, to breathe, to be in the present moment, and to stay in that present moment. Because there's some saying, and I always forget what it is. If when you're living in the past,
Right.
you have anxiety, and the present is fear, or it's vice versa. We don't need to do that to ourselves. So when you catch yourself that you're doing that, use that pause button, take a deep breath, because that is the life energy, that prana, that life force. Bring yourself back to that present moment, and then you can see how much things can change.
I literally live by that rule. Who we surround ourselves with is also as important as what we are. I too have a pilot in my life who is in the aviation world, aviation company that he has. And, you know, he teaches me to be centered because pilots, as you know, especially these light jets they fly or these private aircraft, they go through storms, they go through snow. They have to be so centered and calm. And when you're with someone that is calm, and you're with someone who is able to persevere through life's motion, severe motion, whether it's any kind of movement that is stressful, lightning, storms, unpredicted weather, anything, and they remain calm. It sort of teaches me, it bounces off of me and his energy. And so I think who we surround ourselves with on a personal level is so very important. And I've learned the beauty of doing that as well. If you are around chaos, you'll become chaotic. If you are around something calming, you become more calm. So I'm such a believer in good energy from others as well as beaming it from ourselves to others. So it's a very cyclical thing that I've learned. I've talked on it before, but positive plus negative is still a negative. So I think it's so important to have two positives. Life is so very short. So this show never lasts long enough. Unfortunately, we only have a few minutes left. But if I, had to ask you as an instructor that I am becoming, what would you say is the most beneficial thing that yoga has to give to others that may be trying it for the first time?
Oh my goodness. First of all, get ready. Go into your yoga teacher training with a very open mind. It During my yoga teacher training is the calmest I've ever felt in my entire life. It was such a beautiful, peaceful feeling. And for anyone who is contemplating yoga, if you're scared of yoga, if you really want to try yoga, yoga is beautiful, and there is a different practice for every style, for every, like, for anything that you're looking to do. If you want to increase strength, if you want to have some more calm in your life, there's a yoga practice for you. So I really do encourage you to give it a try. There is no competition in the yoga room. The only competition is in your yoga mat. So you are only working through you and what you have to offer. And I just really encourage you to try yoga because it's such a beautiful journey. And it's not just exercise and building muscle and like vanity things. It's the body, mind, and spirit, exactly what you said, Ivy. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful practice that I'm so grateful that I have in my life.
I am so grateful too, Jackie. It was such a pleasure to have you. You are just so uplifting and so inspiring to others, and you were just such a gift to have on the show. So thank you so much. They can find you. Your company is called
Plant Chicks. So
Plant
we're all
Chicks.
over social media. Yeah, Plant Chicks, PlantChicks. And you can also find me on my personal Instagram at Fabulous Jackie, JACQUE. And Ivy, thank you so much for having me here. I do look forward to meeting you in person, hopefully very soon. I love what you're doing. Keep shining bright.
Thank you so much. You as well. I will see you soon, Jackie. Thanks again. I'll see you. So, thank you so much for joining us today on this very inspiring show. What better to be than your personal best, mind, body, and soul? Now we have all the tips and tools to do that. Next week, we will be following up on this series that we're doing on health. And I look forward to our next guest who talks on ways that we can do that in a different form other than yoga, but just as good. So join us then on Ivy's Inspirations and have an amazing, inspiring day. We will see you soon. Smoothie Cakes is a wonderful, decadent dessert, snack, breakfast, or everyday treat. They are filled with fiber, they are plant-based, high in protein, and made organically with love. Smoothie Cakes are also gluten-free, nut-free, soy-free, and dairy-free, completely vegan and organic. If you're interested in a smoothie cake, go to my website at www.smoothiecakesbyivy.com and order yours today. Atlantis One is a specialized private jet company offering boutique jet services of very light jets like the Embraer Phenom 100 and 300 aircraft. Since 2010, Atlantis One has owned, managed, and sold these particular aircraft. Atlantis One is the expert in these light jets, which give the client the most comfortable, efficient, and technically advanced experience of an executive jet, offering the largest cabin in its class with plentiful natural light and space, delivering serenity throughout. These best-selling light business jets offer true private jet travel experience for your needed travel. Their services include acquisition and sales of Phenom 100 300 aircraft consultation acceptance and delivery, aircraft refurbishment and design, aircraft management, flight crew and pilot mentoring, aircraft partnership programs, and aircraft brokering services. For more information, contact Cal Bitzer, CEO of Atlantis One, at 954-258-8000 or via email at k@atlantis1jets.com. Thank you for joining us today to become inspired at Ivy's Inspirations, living your best life imaginable. What would life be without inspiration? Today we learned a lot from another inspiring guest. Join us next week as we learn more from those who live their best lives and share their techniques and unique abilities to serve as inspirations to this world. See you next week as we continue to become our own best versions.